Warm greetings from Creative Hub Tallinn, Estonia. This is a webinar organized by Education Nation, which is an Estonian initiative to share our educational knowledge and experience with the world. Estonia has the top education results, #1 according to PISA in Europe, and is known for its e-services. We aim to share that experience with the world. Every Thursday, we host a free online webinar to offer support for all of those affected by the current COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, and as a result, switching to online education. Estonia, the leading education nation in Europe, has become a role model for digital education. Today's webinar aims to introduce Estonian best practices of remote learning in content and language integrated learning, or CLIL for short. For more information, go to Facebook and find our page Education Nation and group named Remote Learning Education Nation. In addition to our speakers today, we encourage you to participate as well. In order to ask questions, please just comment on the live stream either on the Education Nation YouTube channel or Education Nation Live. Now let's meet our today's speakers. As I said, we have many good guests here. Actually, we have 5 guests here, and a total of 5 joining us today. The first one, Anna Golubeva, Chief Specialist in Language Impression and Multilingual Education Foundation Innove. Hello, Anna.
Hello, Lehari. Hello, everybody.
Pille Pipar, Head Teacher, Avatud Kool. Hello, Pille.
Hello.
Maija Lust, Educational Technologist, Tallinn Pai Upper Secondary School. Hello, Maija.
Hello.
And Ksenia George, Chairman of the Parents' Union of the Language Impression Program in Estonia. Hello, Ksenia.
Hello, everybody.
And finally, Anastasia Dashko, Year 12 student, Narva Old Town State School. Hello, Anastasia, as well.
Hello, everyone.
Each speaker will have time for their own presentation, after which we will have Q&A session. For more information, again, remind you to go to Facebook and find our page Education Nation and group named Remote Learning Education Nation, or send us an email to hello@educationnation.ee. But now let's move on to today's webinar topic, Estonian best practices of remote learning in or CLIL. Our first speaker, Anna Golubeva, the Chief Specialist in Language Impression and Multilingual Education of Foundation Innove. Anna uses 3 languages daily, Estonian, English and Russian. Her home language is Russian and she studied Estonian through CLIL. Anna, are you keeping up with Estonian studies, or have you maybe started learning a 4th language?
Well, I'd say that I learn Estonian every day from my colleagues and friends. You can never say that you stopped learning a language. So it's still a continuous learning process, although I would like to learn another language.
All right, we're looking forward to your presentation, please.
All right, thank you very much. So I think that we have a very good timing for our webinar today, because it has been announced that Estonia is ranked, or was ranked, #1 in financial literacy. And there is a famous saying that time is money, and as we know, CLIL saves time in the education process, so we can say that both time and money come down to CLIL if we talk about education. Now let's talk about my presentation, shall we? So Estonia is quite a small country in Northern Europe on the eastern coast of the Baltic Sea. We have 1.3 million of people, and we have we have one state language, that is the Estonian language. But at the same time, this 1.3 million of people is also 142 nationalities living in Estonia, and we have the biggest national minority living in Estonia. That's 25% of people, and they speak Russian as their mother tongue. And if we speak about implementation of CLIL in the education system, what is unique about Estonia is that differently from many other countries that use CLIL to study the language of minorities or to study foreign language, Estonia uses CLIL to study the state language, the Estonian language mostly. And we see content and language integrated learning and language immersion as one of its form as being acknowledged in the national curricula and recommended as a form of learning and teaching Estonian as a second language. We also see CLIL as best practices supported through development of key competences, if we talk about communication competences and many others in general, and key competences. And speaking at the state level, we also talk about a strong state language immersion program that was founded in year 1998, so it's more than 20 years ago. And at the moment, we're talking about over 10% of all the preschools and schools that are members of the language immersion program. And again, I would like to emphasize that this is a state language immersion program. So the language immersion program starts at the preschool level and covers all the 9 years of compulsory education. So this is what makes us unique if we talk about implementation of CLIL. So let me go forward. And so what actually has allowed us to cope with these new conditions of distance learning? What has allowed us to actually transfer all our good practices of teaching in the second language for our students, that is the Estonian language, in the new conditions? Here I would like to say a big thank you to our partners, and this is very nice for me to see this geographical representation at today's webinar. I know it may seem humble, but we see Tallinn, we see Tartu, and we see Narva. This is a very nice representation for Estonia. And also we see our representatives of our parents, our students, our schools. So we have a strong network of teacher trainers and coaches. We have network of education specialists and municipalities, because the majorities of the educational institutions belonging to our program are run by municipalities. We have a network of directors of both schools and kindergartens. We do a lot of networking events for teachers, be those professional development events or just networking events, and different mailing lists and groups on social media. We have cooperation with parents. We are very proud of our alumni who are quite successful in all their areas of professional work. But it's especially gratifying to see those who were language immersion pupils go back to schools and become language immersion teachers. And if we talk about distance learning period and this what has been happening for the last 6-7 weeks, it's good to see the grassroots level initiatives when there are spontaneous groups in social networks with parents and teachers actually sharing tips and their experience and helping each other with advice on how to support children with learning the second language in the conditions of distant learning. And what do we do? How do we support our teachers and our parents during this time? So our students and teachers have us, specialists of Innova Multilingual Educational Language Immersion Center, to rely on online study materials. Here you see just 2 examples of the guidelines and textbooks that were published last year and are available for teachers online. We have actually taken some of our services online. The example here is methodological coaching for teachers. So this is the service. It can be done individually. There's also possibility for group coaching. So at the time convenient for the teacher, they can agree with the coach and have an online session via Skype or Zoom or any other environment. So at the time convenient and when it's necessary for the the teacher. And also we have participated in webinars, and we have initiated webinars that again help us again to provide teachers with help, and then help them to get connected with their colleagues. And what would be our tips probably to partners? This time has actually shown to us what are the areas that our teachers need development in, what is it where we need to develop in, and I guess when this time is over, we have more strength to develop. We know where we have room for development. This time has shown some of our schools and kindergartens where their strengths is. It has helped them find their uniqueness. You know, as there is a saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. So hopefully some of our institutions will continue development, this newly found strength. So some of our institutions found that this is not a challenge, but a possibility. And this time has really demonstrated the real benefits of CLIL, that learning a language through a subject is a great opportunity to actually learn it in a better and in a fuller way. And actually that integration of subjects makes the study process not only more efficient, but more enjoyable. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Anna. Dear viewers, if you have any questions for Anna or any of the other speakers, please head over to Education Nation YouTube channel or Facebook Live and post your question in the comments section there. Our next speaker is Pille Pipar, head teacher at Avatud Kool. This is a dual language immersion school. Pille has worked as a teacher since 2008 and she is interested in language immersion. Additionally, she has written 6 textbooks for children who learn Estonian as a second or foreign language. Pille, what is the most difficult aspect of learning the Estonian language?
Yeah, thank you. I think the most difficult part of learning Estonian is also the most interesting and most tricky part. It is our 14 cases.
All right, please go ahead, and we're looking forward to hear your presentation.
Thank you. So, I'm from Avatud Kool. It's a dual language immersion school in Estonia, in Tallinn. We started in 2017, so we are in our 3rd school year. And at the moment we have grades 1 to 4 and approximately 210 students this year. What and how our students master? Our values, they are: we care, we have courage, we show dedication, and we celebrate together. They are really important for us. And if you come to visit us someday, then you will see them also in the everyday life in our classrooms. We have 3 languages at a very good level: Estonian, Russian, and English. And our students have excellent knowledge of mathematics and natural sciences, as well as social and emotional skills. These are our goals. How do our students master them? We have dual language immersion. What means that means that if I generalize, then we have in one classroom Estonian-speaking children and Russian-speaking children. We have then one teacher, one language rule, and we learn different subjects in different languages. We teach broader general topics in lessons rather than separate subjects, for example, language and mathematics. So every teacher has a possibility to choose whether they will start this day with mathematics and then continue with language, or vice versa. And we have project-based learning, which is also broader general topics. But what about remote learning and CLIL in our school? The wider view for beginning. the key word here is cooperation among teachers, among management, students, and parents. We have a meeting for all our teachers and for all our staff once a week. And then we have a meeting for the teachers who work with the same students at least once a week. The third point is really important for us. It's that we have one work plan for all the class teachers. So if a teacher plans her or his lesson, then he will write it down to a Google Sheet document. And it is good because then every teacher sees what students are learning this year, this month, this week, even in every lesson. They have the possibility to see the whole picture of student studies. And it is really, really important for us. It's the system we use not only while remote learning, but in daily basis. And we have polls for students, teachers, and parents at least once every month. And their aim is to understand how we are going, how we are doing our work, how the remote learning is going, and what are our next steps. What happens in the classrooms while remote learning? We have one environment for our digital school. It is Google Classroom. We are in the Google Classroom, we have the same rule as at our daily basis school. We have one teacher, one language. And oral scheduled lessons are in the Google Classroom. There are the written lessons, and then there's online lessons, Google Meet lessons for foreign language lessons, social emotional lessons, and if needed, then there's subject-based lessons as well. But maximum 2 online lessons per day. We also do differentiation. It is really, really meaningful, and it is also it's important because when we talk about CLIL, then the most important thing is to understand, do students get from the lesson the content of the lesson? Do they understand? If they don't understand, then what is the problem? Where is the problem? If a teacher understands where the problem is, then she can differentiate her lesson. And in our school, in Avatud Kool, we do differentiate every lesson while remote learning. That means that if a teacher plans her lesson, then at first she will do the lesson for native speakers and for those who are fluent already in this language. And then she will do the same lesson, but with a lot of pictures, videos, audios, even talking walls. I have moved from the classroom to homes. There are a bit smaller amount of text-based exercises, etc. The differentiation is important for the content of the lesson, so that everyone understands what is the main thing in this lesson. And then there's communication in the classroom also, because every student has to know that if he has a problem or she has a problem, if he has a question, then she will know where to, that he's not alone with it. He can reach to his teacher. And to sum it up, then at first, you have to understand what is the main content of the lesson while we're talking about CLIL and remote learning. Why and how should a student master it? And what will help students to understand the content? And of course, we can't get that much feedback as in ordinary school, as while we are in school. That's why we have to think through how, when, and on what purpose do we ask for the feedback, and from who we need the feedback. And if we do have the feedback, then we can differentiate. But there's one point we have to remember. We can't reach every student in our classroom. We don't have the time as a teacher. We should we should try to see the groups of the students. Then we can reach them all by their problems and what their needs are. And the last one, last but not least, is that I'm here for you. And it's not only for students, it's also for teachers. If you have problems, if you have questions, then just ask them. Ask for help from your colleagues, from management, from students. Just don't be alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Pille. Now we move on to Maija Lust, educational technologist of Tallinn Upper Secondary School and Information Society Technology PhD student at Tallinn University. Maija believes that educational technology nowadays is must-have knowledge for every teacher. In the webinar, she will give an overview of EduTech support, both countrywide and in the school. Maija, how's the current crisis affected the communication between teachers and the parents in your school?
Thank you for the question. In our school, communication between teachers and parents has strengthened during the remote learning period, and it's quite intense, and we communicate every day, sometimes a few times per day. But now I would like to tell you about some tips that we did countrywide by network of educational technologists, and to share some experience of my school. So, at the Estonia, we have a big challenge facing remote learning period. Namely, we have a network of educational technologists. At the moment, we have more than 100 educational technologists working at schools, universities, kindergarten, supporting teachers, parents, and pupils on daily basis, online and live, providing support, teaching, guiding, instructions, and conducting lessons as well. So on this slide, you see some of the tools that our network shared to teachers, to parents, and these tools are quite popular among our schools. And we are trying by our network to provide our teachers with the manuals, how to use it methodologically and objectively to support learning process in everyday life and in remote learning as well. And now we are going further. So I told you that we have a good network of educational technologists, and we have two major organizations which supports us and coordinating our work. The organizations are Estonian Association of Educational Technologists and Information Technology Foundation for Education, which serves at present days as emergency team. And they're supporting us. They are coordinating our work with providing teachers, parents, and pupils with webinar course, online courses for school board members, creating manuals, working at voluntary basis on the Facebook communities, helping these schools that do not have educational technologists in their staff, and guiding them through the remote learning process. A few weeks ago, we started to conduct countrywide live lessons for pupils when all pupils around the country have opportunity to join a certain subject or certain topic live lesson conducted through YouTube and participate actively. So this practice is very good because sometimes on these lessons, teachers is not doing ordinary lesson, but talking, teaching something interesting, and some life skills, some social skills as well, which is very, very good for kids. We have very strong network, and educational technologist was ready for remote learning even before it began. So we are ready like 2 weeks before, maybe 3 weeks before, because we started to think, what do we do if this period will happen? And we tried to sketch some plans. We tried to choose some tools which will be useful, which will be easy to learn in very, very quick time. And we created two communities on the Facebook. One is for Estonian-speaking parents, teachers, and pupils, and the other community is for Russian-speaking. And at the moment in Estonian community, we have a bit over 800 of members, and in Russian-speaking community, a little above 2.5. And on daily basis, there are members of communities that supporting, guiding, communicating, sharing experiences, sharing some insight info, sharing manuals, some useful tips. Also, in cooperation with our coordinating team, we created a web page which is landed at HITSA Web with all useful information, tips, tools, webinar series for our community, for our society. So, and this page is very popular, it's shared everywhere. So if you want, you can find this link in one of the communities. And now I would like to a bit to introduce our school experience. Our school is also language immersion school. We have late immersion program and early immersion program. And at the beginning of the remote period, we also agreed that we will try to strengthen the communication between school board members, teachers, parents, and pupils. And we also like to have video conversation every day, or many 2, 3, 4 times per day. Sometimes we are talking with the school board, with the teachers. Also, class teachers have their online classes with pupils of their class at evenings, during the day, once per week. We created on the beginning of the remote learning period ET live support, which is working live and online 24/7 for teachers, parents, and pupils of our school family. And I usually guide teachers through the remote learning process showing some tools, supporting them in using tools, and if teachers some question I can't help with hardware or software, then I just let's say repose the question to our IT specialists, and they usually solve questions very, very quickly. Sometimes it's just 2 or 5 minutes, and very, very rare the solving of the question is by time over 1 day, but it's maybe 1 or 2 cases that we had. Also, sometimes some parents write that they can't access one tool or material, and then I'm trying to show how to do it, how to access it, and support them. As we are speaking for tools, we use Google Classroom. Just before remote learning period starts, all our teachers has passed Google Classroom seminars, which were conducted in the free last day before remote learning period. And during the seminars, teachers learned how to use it, how to post materials, how to add pupils, how to assess pupils. We decided that on the language immersion class, the option could be that in one Google Classroom we add all teachers that conduct lessons in this concrete class, and all teachers in the same classroom, they are posting their materials and sharing their thoughts, and using Estonian language for the description of the lessons, and usually they provide descriptions, and this is overall rule for our school teacher, that description for the lesson should be written step by step in understandable language, so the when a student is left alone home without parents who is working, for example, then he can open his electronic diary or learning diary, and he can read step by step instruction to complete his exercises, lessons, and to get his material. So
yes, please, Maya.
Okay. And of course, we try to encourage our teachers to share their experiences in and out of schools, because we think that this is important. If one or two of our teachers have found out something very interesting or different or very special, then we think that sharing this experience motivate these concrete teachers, and also it gives insight or idea to other teachers, and maybe teachers who was a bit afraid, they can see from the experience of the colleague that this is nothing to be afraid of. And also for the CLIL, I think that narrative video lessons and step-by-step instructions for pupils in each subject are quite useful. With narrative video lessons, they can hear language that they learn. And for example, I will tell about one teacher, math teacher, who is doing narrative video lessons. She have a white table at her home, so she's actually writing on the table, on the board, and add some explanation. And she shares video lessons through the Google Classroom. And also for the class teachers, we have invented, one of our teacher, history and social science teacher, invented, let's say, a book of book of rules or book of recipes, how to for kids how to learn. So in this book of recipes, it's actually written how to access to all the materials that they have, how where they have to log in and what they have to write and when they have to access the lessons. And as an idea or tip that I wanted to share is that educational technologists are the frontline players for organizing distance education because they can quickly respond to the changed situation, facilitate networking and community sharing, educate and support teachers, parents and pupils.
Thank you very much, Maya. This is very nice and interesting, and thank you so much for sharing your experience. If anyone has questions for Maya or any other of the speakers, please submit them to the comment section in YouTube or Facebook Live, and we'll get to them in the Q&A session. Our fourth speaker is Ksenia George, the chairman of the Parents Union of the Language Immersion Program in Estonia and social pedagogue in Tartu Vocational Education Center. In the webinar, she shares the experience of parents of the union in supporting their children with remote learning. Ksenia, how does the parents' role in studies change when moving from regular schoolwork to remote learning?
Hello. No, I think that the first difference in role is that before distance learning, parent was responsible mainly for mother language development and supporting. And now we are responsible for both languages.
All right. Very nice. We're looking forward to your presentation. Let's move forward, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so today I am here like a parent whose child is studying in a language immersion program, and I want to describe my own experience and the experience of another's union parents. I will not talk about main ground rules that are important for distance learning, but I try to focus on language immersion specification. Okay, I'll try to forward. Okay. The first and one of the big problems in language immersion programs that students may experience problem with understanding the tasks. As they don't know the language well enough, at this stage, parents should help to understand the task. Not perform it instead of the child. But what to do if parents don't know language enough too? In this case, parents should contact a teacher and ask a teacher for help. Video, for example, is a phone call. And another possibility to receive help is a social network. In Facebook, there are a lot of different groups, and you can ask help for another parents. For example, our union web page is one of possibilities. And second, the most specific problem of the language immersion is in the distance learning is the language environment. There is an appropriate environment in school, but language environment. But usually it is absent at home. So in order to support language level, a parent should create a possibility for hearing and using language, not only for doing school tasks. So for it, we can use the following possibilities. That examples are regarding the Estonian language, but I'm sure that some analogs exist in other languages too. So for developing listening skills, parents can use special tasks that are created for kindergartens and schools and are available for everyone on the internet. It's possible to put performances online. I personally use, for example, the possibility to listen to the way actors of Nuku Theatre are reading books online. Or here's a link for Home Festival of Children's Performances. Good way to put fairy tales and songs in a language that is subjected to study. A lot of appropriate materials is on YouTube, for example. So cartoons, sure. Nowadays we can choose a language for the soundtrack of the cartoons and use not mother language but second language. It's very suitable for children's way. But listening is not the only thing that we should work on. Very good way to activate using of language is games. It's different digital games, computer, mobile phone, tablet, and for it there are website we have with games in Estonian language, and board games in second language. It's a perfect choice for quality family time, for example. Also we have a different websites with interactive and interesting materials for children in Estonian, and their parents could choose more interesting for their child. One of good ways to support language it is using informal education possibilities in second languages. For example, my older child has theater studio in Estonian twice a week by Skype, or sister son have physical trainings in Zoom. But we should remember that parent is not a teacher. And our task is to support the child in their studying and to create appropriate conditions for this. We should raise interest in language and to support the language study motivation. Here everything matters. One of things is our example. Put on radio and TV in the language we want our children to learn. Control how you comment on the language study and distance studying in general. Bring attention to the facts regarding where and how the language, the second language is useful and can be used. We should remember that the main way children study is modeling and imitation. So, in a few words, in order to support our children in the language immersion programs during distance studying, we are in touch with the school for timely help offer when the child needs it. We are creating an environment that is supportive of language studying in different ways. We are using all possible informal studying ways for the second language. And we are being the example for our children. Thank you. Try to be quick.
Thank you, Ksenia. Wonderful. No, you were perfect. We have just one speaker left until we begin with the Q&A, and please submit your question in the comment section in YouTube or Facebook Live, and we'll get to them during the Q&A session. Our final speaker today is Anastasia Dashko, year 12 student of Narva Old Town State School. Anastasia is going to talk about her distance learning experience and provides a student's view of CLIL. But first, from what I remember, the last year in high school can be quite crazy. But not in a way we are experiencing now with Corona. Anastasia, how has it been for you so far?
I really try to see positive point for me in this quarantine story, but I keep studying and preparing for universities.
Wonderful. So go ahead. We'd like to hear your thoughts to close up our topic today. Please.
I'd like to tell you how I have learned Estonian and what I do now. To start, I would like to introduce a little my background. I live in an Estonian city on the border with Russia. Almost all of people here speak Russian, and my home language is Russian too. When I went to school, the teachers started to talk with us only in Estonian, and it was my first experience of learning language. So I started learning most of subjects in Estonian before I started learning them in my home language. In our school, we have 4 languages. They are Estonian, Russian, English, and German. In school, we are practicing our language in different subjects. For example, from the year 10 to 12, I have learned maths, chemistry, and physics on my mother tongue, so on Russian, but more social subjects like history and biology and geography, we have learned on Estonian. Remote learning, first of all, means for me to study by myself. Teachers give us tasks every day, and by the end of the day, we need to send them back. If there are some questions, we always can communicate with teachers by sending them emails or maybe calling them. And what is good, like all communication with teachers is in the language of subject. So it is very good option to practice language. Some of my friends now have online lessons and they use some online textbooks. So this it's not stopping the education while quarantine. I try to improve my language skills by watching films and reading some news because in my town I don't have any practice of language, so I try to keep it in a good level. Sorry. On the 29th of May, I'm taking Estonian as a native language examination, while most of my friends from other schools take Estonian as a second language exam. I feel like I'm completely bilingual. I speak Estonian and Russian on the same level. It makes no difference for me to what language I use to communicate, because I had some practice on this language in some subjects. And also I feel confident to express my opinion, and now I feel comfortable to learn the language both at home and even by myself at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia, for sharing. And right now we would like to ask a few questions. First, Anna, could you specify for one of our audience members regarding CLIL? Do your teachers teach math in English? Do they start the day with a certain subject and then continue in another language, or how is it is?
Was that a question for me or for Pille?
For you, Anna, please.
Because it's, well, basically in the program of immersion, we do not specify for the schools which language they teach the subject in. It's up to the school to choose. And mostly in the language immersion program, we focus on Russian and Estonian being used. Of course, if the school has the capacity to teach subjects in English, they are welcome to. What we define with the school is we define the percentage. For example, we talk about at least 60% of the curriculum to be taught through the Estonian language, but we do not, so to say, command the schools which subjects they have to teach through the Estonian language. It's up to the schools.
All right. Ksenia, is the content of the various interactive resources offered exclusively in Estonian language?
Yes. No, that my examples that are in Estonian language, because we are studying by a second language, we are studying Estonian. So I was focused on it. But I think that things like songs, cartoons, fairy tales, games, it's always is possible to find out in other languages too.
Pille, does Avatud Kool plan on having more than 4 grades in the future? Does remote learning help progress along?
Yes, we are planning to grow, and we grow every year. So next year we will have 60 more new students for our new first graders. And we are planning grades from first to 9th.
All right. Pille, another question for you. You mentioned social and emotional skills among the things your students master. How well do they learn these skills remotely?
They do learn them. We have social emotional lessons every week, so they are expressing their feelings and how they are learning while remote learning, and it helps them to understand and to analyze themselves.
Anna, you mentioned coaching sessions for teachers. How long are these sessions?
Well, I think it basically depends on particular teacher's needs. And I should say that our coaching program presupposes confidentiality. As we did before the distance learning period began, we have established, and this is again the state program, that and this is financed by the Ministry of Education and Research through the foundation Innove, that we have the program that says that any teacher in whose classroom or in whose kindergarten group there is at least one child whose home language is different from the language of instruction, so this teacher has the right for free of charge methodological counseling. Because presuppose that the educational process in such group or classroom differs from the regular one. But again, we can only be, so to say, the mediator between establishing the contact between the teacher and the coach. But we do not, again, set the terms, and we don't know about the content of this session of coaching. So it's all confidential. And it's all on the terms, and the amount of coaching sessions they have had or they are going to have is not reported to us directly. Well, we know the amount, so to say, but how long it lasted, it might be an hour, maybe it's 90 minutes. I cannot say so.
Thanks. Maija, do you feel educational technologists will continue to play a big role once the quarantine is over? The role probably changes. Maybe a short comment. The role for educational technologists after quarantine.
Well, thank you for the question. I think the role of educational technologists will be the same, I guess. Maybe it will be a bit not so frontline, but I guess now, when during remote learning period, the digital skills of our teachers and pupils have made a big step forward, now we have to think how to support their future development of the skills. And as you know, there's always possibility for, let's say, organizing remote lessons for museums, for language learning, for example. At this week or week ago, in our school, one teacher have had a video lesson with Estonian library, which actually was conducted in Estonian language for the kids of 8th grade. So we just support.
Yeah, thanks. Ksenia, you listed many ways how a parent can create a language learning environment at home. Should a parent try to all of them or stick to a select few only?
Thank you for question. No, it's not possible to try all of them. I think that everyone should choose the more suitable for his child. You parent know what is character of his individuality of own child, and age is very important too. So everyone choose that what is more suitable for them. For example, with my older child, who is in 9th form, very much I can't do, but I can be an example, and I support her in the informal education with a theater studio. But for the younger one, who is 4.5, I can put different listening tasks, listening fairy tale songs, cartoons, or from lastekran.ee different videos.
All right. To close it up, Anastasia, the last question for you. What has been the most pleasant surprise of switching to distance learning for you or your friends?
I feel the most pleasant was that now I can manage time by myself. So if I do some tasks really quick, I don't have to wait these 45 minutes the lesson lasts. But maybe also some of my friends are not happy because we don't have to pass all exams to finish school. You need exams only to get to university. So it's up to you to take them or not.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you all, the speakers today, and thanks to you for watching us this evening. Our next webinar takes place next Thursday, the 14th of May, and the same time next week's topic is e-residency opportunities for Education Nation. Thank you again all for tuning in and watching. For more information on future webinars, follow us on social media at Education Nation and join our open Facebook group Remote Learning Education Nation, where you can also suggest topics for future webinars. Take care and see you in a week.